Welcome back, students, to another episode of Redstone University. Today we're going to be talking about a very important aspect of actually two games, and these are the differences in Redstone between Java and Bedrock editions of Minecraft. Now you might think each editions have the same Redstone, all the same properties apply, and there's really no difference, and you're wrong. But other people think that the entire system is completely different. But it's actually not that different when you take a look at it. But what is different is the Pistons. They are where the biggest differences are shown. Before we start, some of you might not know which edition you're playing on. For those that do, just skip ahead. So, if you have like a PC or a Mac, you'll probably have Java edition. But if you have, say, an Xbox, a Switch, a mobile device like an iPad or a phone, or you specifically bought the Bedrock edition for Windows 10, that's only for PC, then you'll have Bedrock edition. And for the circuits that I'm going to show you, anything relating to Java edition will be in red, and Bedrock will be in blue. First up, the Pistons. So, many of you may know about quasi-connectivity. What that does is when a line is powering this block above, this imaginary block, and the piston gets updated, it'll extend or retract, whether this is on or off. So basically it's thinking it's being powered when it is not. This does not happen in Bedrock Edition. There is no quasi-connectivity whatsoever in Bedrock Edition. So although quasi-connectivity can be a helpful tool, it also can be a real pain when pistons are firing when they're not supposed to. So in Bedrock, you don't have to worry about any of that. But you don't have the benefit of being able to power pistons from a distance like this. Next is placement of redstone. So in both editions, marked by purple, you can actually power redstone on top of a piston and it will not break. And for Java edition, if it's on the side of piston, it will break. But in Bedrock, it actually will just stay on. It will not break. So that's pretty helpful. Now here's a big thing between both of them. In Java Edition, you cannot push entities that can hold items, like a chest, a furnace, any of that cannot be pushed. In Bedrock Edition, they can be, which is both useful and also it can be a bit annoying. Because what I like about these blocks is that since they can't move, you can use them with slime block machines, and they're very cheap to make. Like furnaces, 8 cobble. Well, obsidian's hard to find, but it would be pretty nice to move chest. So that's another difference between the two editions. And one thing, in Java Edition only, sticky pistons can actually spit out their blocks. In Bedrock, they cannot actually. So, as you can tell, this goes so fast that the block doesn't have time to retract, and that does not happen on Bedrock. It goes out real quick and comes back. And then finally, this is something pretty weird. So in Java Edition, when you have two pistons that are conflicting with each other, one always takes over. So this always has the right of way, basically. Now in Bedrock, who knows? This could fire first when you power both of them at the same time. Or this could fire first. There's no logic to this at all. Which leads me to my final thing, is that these pistons in Bedrock Edition are less reliable than Java. For whatever reason, pistons they have a random sort of delay when firing, which can break many contraptions that rely on precise timings, especially compact 3x3 piston doors and stuff like that. Next, we move on to the Observer. Now, you wouldn't really think there'd be much for the Observer to change, but there is. Observers can detect different things in different editions. So, since Java detects updates in block states, they have a few more blocks that they detect than, say, Bedrock Edition. So, first, opening and closing of shulker blocks. Java can detect that. when a melon grows to the side and then this bends over, that's a change in block state. It can detect that. Changes in farmland, the saturation, and then actually I found this a bit surprising, but playing a note block. Next we have removing an item from an item frame or placing it there. Now the reason it doesn't work in Java is because item frames are considered an entity in Java Edition. They're completely different. Now the activation of a dragon head or the activation of a beacon, and finally cooking or the popping off of food from a campfire. So those are a few things that Java and Bedrock Edition differ with observers. Before we move on, I want to say something about talking about these editions. So I'm just merely stating the facts about each edition. They're both great in their own ways, but in my opinion, I feel that Java Edition does handle the redstone field a bit better than Bedrock does. But that's my opinion. So let's get on with the episode. Next up we have hoppers. Now there might not seem to be much to do with hopper, but it's pretty weird what Bedrock has done with the hopper. So normally you would have these items in the chest, and normally they just flow out as they are in here. So this would go first and this would go last. So let's see that. Alright, after a few seconds the items have flown through and they're all in the same order. Okay, makes sense. Now Bedrock Edition. I actually tested this on a Bedrock world. I put all this stuff in here and then I ran it through 5 hoppers, and guess what came out? It looks mostly normal, but these two swapped, or no, these two swapped, and then these two swapped. And it's like, how, yeah, all these got all mixed up. And it's like, how does that happen? I mean, how does an item basically jump a hopper or something? I'm not too sure. But that's the differences between hoppers in each edition. Now, normally this probably won't affect you, but that's just something to look out for. If you have anything that requires items to go in a certain way, watch out for that. So yeah, hoppers are a bit strange on Bedrock, but on all they both technically work. Next up we have the target block. Now what target block did, which was really revolutionary, was it redirected redstone into itself. So this was extremely handy for lines that went like this, and then you just needed something to force it to go this way. And it goes right through. It's like an opaque block. And an opaque block is anything like quartz or wool. Now in Bedrock Edition, it does the same thing as this guy here. So the redstone will run into it. But it's technically a transparent block when it comes to redstone signals. So you can't send any signals through it, which kind of strange, but okay, because that is very useful. But like I said, they don't do that for Bedrock, which I'm a bit disappointed in. But hopefully they'll change that later, but that's the way it is. So some of you might be thinking, okay, there's a few differences between redstone, but how does that really affect me? And I'll tell you how. Since Pistons are a bit whack on Bedrock compared to Java, stuff like this, like the flying machine, two-way flying machine, does not properly function. On Java Edition, when you activate this, the pistons will spit out the blocks and retract and basically make it move like this. Now, there's one problem. Bedrock Edition, the pistons do not spit out the block. So it just goes back and forth constantly, and it just really doesn't work. So you can't have a two-way flying machine. At least not like this. What you can do is you can have a regular piston replace one of these pistons, and then it's a one-way flying machine. But those aren't that useful anymore, especially since we have farms and stuff that require something like this. But wait, there is an alternative. This is a design I found by Blazing King. Leave a link in the description. And this is a very ingenious design because what he did is basically glazed terracotta can only be pushed, not pulled. So you just shift this entire module over to the side. So now this is pushing it and this is pulling it. And it just keeps doing that back and forth. Now if you want to build one, you can take a screenshot right here, if it ever stops moving. And then all you have to do is you have to push the back module right here, this right here. And you just have to push that side to side. So this is really how you get around the fact that pistons are kind of broken in Bedrock Edition. Not to say they don't have their advantages though, because not having to deal with quasi-connectivity sometimes is a blessing. I hope you enjoyed today's video about comparing the differences in Redstone between Bedrock and Java Edition. Now Redstone is very complex, and it just makes it a little bit more complex that there's differences between each edition. So if you play both, you'll be confused about a few things, especially the pistons. And one more thing about the editions. In Java Edition, the fact that the lever has little particles when it's on is so great because it helps you determine whether this is on or off without any lamp or anything else. But that's just me. I like that aesthetic. So that's all for Redstone University. If you haven't already checked out the Understanding Redstone series, and students, you are dismissed.